Lesson 4-6 on corresponding parts of congruent triangles. Now let's start with a quick review on what congruent triangles are. Congruent triangles are two triangles that have exactly the same shape. In other words, they have all sides congruent and all angles congruent. If it can be shown that two triangles are congruent, then we can conclude from that that all the corresponding parts, all the sides are congruent, all the angles are congruent. That's going to be the goal of today's lesson. And the goal is summarized in the following phrase: corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Here's what that means. Let's say that you're given two triangles, triangle ABC and triangle FED, and you're told as a statement up front that these two triangles are congruent. Knowing that fact, it can then be shown that all the corresponding parts, say for example angle C and angle D, or for example say angle F, angle A, side length FE and segment AB, segment DF, segment AC, all these corresponding parts are congruent to each other as a result of the triangles themselves being congruent. Now, in today's lesson, we're going to be using this fact in deductive reasoning. Now, here's a precursor to that. Let's say that you're given the triangle ABC and triangle DEF, and you're asked, is angle A congruent to angle D? Well, you'll notice that the given facts involving those two triangles state that all three segments in triangle ABC are congruent to all three segments in triangle DEF. So, we can use the following reasoning to lead us to the conclusion that angle A is congruent to angle D. Here's how. Since triangle ABC and triangle DEF share three side lengths that are congruent, we can conclude that the triangles themselves are congruent. So we start by making the following congruency conjecture, that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF by the side-side-side congruency conjecture. Once it has been shown that the two triangles are congruent, we can then conclude that angle A is congruent to angle D, because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Yes, angle A is congruent to angle D. Now, in today's lesson, there are specific expectations for how to complete the homework assignments. It is not enough just to answer the questions provided with the yes or no answer. You need to extend the question further and provide thorough reasoning. And here is exactly how that reasoning needs to be illustrated. Given triangle ABC and triangle EDC, is angle D congruent to angle B? Here's how to reason your way through it. And you must give your reasoning for each and every one of these problems. First, make a triangle congruency statement. For example, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDC. That can be proven using the side angle side congruency conjecture. But not only is it important for you to make a triangle congruency statement and back it up with valid reasoning, you have to list all the parts that support your conclusion that the triangles are congruent. So if you say side angle side, you must list two pairs of congruent sides and a pair of congruent angles. So, listing those congruent parts, we know from what's given to us in the problem that segment BC is congruent to segment DC, and segment CD is congruent to segment C. Oh, sorry, I got that reversed. And segment CE is congruent to segment CA. But we also need to have an angle in there. Hopefully you've seen by now that the angle DCE is congruent to angle BCA. But since that is a fact not directly given in the problem, but rather deduced because these two angles are vertical angles, you must explain why the parts are congruent if that information is not directly given in the problem. Now, once you have thoroughly reasoned that the triangles are congruent and why, then you can finish with the following statement, that angle D is congruent to angle B, because now that we've proven that the triangles are congruent, we know that the corresponding parts of the congruent triangles are also congruent. Thus concludes today's lesson.